That's the way we come in, and that's the way we begin. Well, it shows that Farah's not here. Didn't have anything pre-scripted, pre-canned, or anything. We just do it all live, and that's what we are right now. We're live. And we're going to get some of that going on today, too. Did they have that opera spray, those big people would do, in between shows? It looks like a giant perfume bulb. Remember that? You just go, and everything's back to normal again. What exactly does that do anyway? Is it like Primatine Mist is for the nasal passages? It kind of clears it out. Tonight, even though we haven't assigned, Deb is on assignment. And Sister Farah has a flu/cold. And she'll be back next week as long as, and Deb will too, as long as Deb makes it, yeah. She has to go on, I make her. No, that's part of our ministry, yes, and fortunately for us, we actually enjoy it. More giveaways next week, unfortunately. I'm sorry to tell everybody, the giveaways aren't going to be until next week. But what's that mean? One more giveaway to normal, so nobody loses anything. Well, anyway, Chris, welcome. Mike will be calling in a couple minutes. I'll have to keep an eyeball on Skype. And so it's just the three of us, the three Sworges. Fellowship of the Swords gathered here with our sort of round table. It's more like a triangle tonight. I have it in here, but that's something I wanted to add later is the website, not the current one that's redirected from Demonology today. I'm building a new website, swordsofstmichael.org/WPs, where you can preview it. And you can poke around here and tell us what you think so far, but, it's got some default image on the front. And, it's funny because WordPress really isn't as user-friendly as you might think. They make it look really easy for Wix and WordPress, but I guess it depends on the template. It's kind of fussy. I like the multi-level dimensional menus, which is nice because you select one category, then another one pops up with a bunch of things. But it doesn't work very well on the phones and the smaller tablets at this time. I'm going to have to get a special app to whatever to shrink it down to mobile size so people can view the site and go to prayers and so forth. Something we're going to do also is we're going to do a live rosary where it'll be archived, and I'll put it on YouTube too, and we're going to do joyful, sorrowful, glorious, and do each one. So there'll be each one for each mystery and each decade over time. Being the wife, maybe the rest of the family, the kids or something, will be saying the prayers. And during it, what's going to be different is I was looking for this years ago. It'll be a montage slideshow of the mysteries being put before you in old the art from the old masters and maybe some images from good movies like, Passion of the Christ or the one that has Robert Powell in it, Jesus of Nazareth. One of these things that make you think about the mysteries. If you're like me, it's difficult when you have a lot going on in a day to keep your mind on the mysteries. And that's the thing. You're to meditate upon the mysteries, and the prayers become secondary because you're trying to, and it's good for the mind to think about Jesus' passion in such detail, like you're reliving a movie that you watched that might be just playing it back in your mind, but this will help a lot. Visual aids. And they'll play, one after the other. Not really fast, but, kind of fade in, stay in a few seconds, and another one fades in, and like that. Kind of like the way we do the St. Michael prayer, such as this one. So we'll do our St. Michael prayer right now. You see how they transition? All right, we'll do our St. Michael prayer there. You feel free to join in if you're out there. And Michael, what the heck? In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. St. Michael, the Archangel, defend us all in battle. Be our protection against the malice and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, and we humbly pray. And do thou, Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine powers of God, cast into hell Satan and all the other evil spirits who roam to the world, seeking to ruin the souls. Amen. So I got it there where those images are going too fast, and I realized that it's just timed just right, so the St. Michael prayer is done. It went black before I got finished. But those are going a little faster probably than, faster than the Rosary one. Probably faster than the St. Michael prayers that you're having there. You hardly get a glimpse of the stained glass images that are used in there before it goes black on you, and it's at the end of the cycle. But anyway, welcome tonight, ladies and germs, as Milton Berle used to say. I like those old silly comedians. I watched 2 biographies while I was sick with my, many more than that, but things on TV. But a couple of them on the Three Stooges. You a Three Stooges fan there? Oh my gosh, my daughter is big time. We don't expect the gals to understand the Stooges, or Star Trek, or even Star Wars. I guess they made it more gal appropriate by adding more female characters. And oh, by the way, Chris, if you haven't reviewed, seen the movie, we're gonna review that next week and give some thoughts on it. Even though it's it's kind of spiritual, I guess, right?
Right.
Not really tear it apart because it's fantasy and it's like, oh no, this isn't applicable like you do with a horror movie. That telling how much nonsense this and that is. There'll be more to come for that, believe me. So let's get out. Excuse me. Let's get on with things. I hope someone notices Michael Norton when he shows up in the chat room. But how's your New Year's been? It's a Happy New Year to everybody out there. As we have in a ticker tape, I might as well say that too. I'm not the protocol droid here, and that would be the wife. Yeah, my wife. I'll call somebody. I called Mike today, and Mike had some health issues, and he had to get him taken care of, so to speak. And then last week we did too. And so, my wife's. I haven't heard from Mike, not directly. So I asked Mike on the answering machine, "Hey, Mike, let me know if you're going to do the show tonight." And then my wife's in the background like, "Ask him how he's doing." Remember, he was just in the hospital. Something like that. But that's guys for you, partly. But doesn't help. I'm probably, what do you call that, autistic. That goes to the territory for, being an artist and all that stuff. Hey, look, I got a little different shirt on tonight. And you can see it's like some guitar shirt, a classic guitar shirt with my Franciscan Tau. And, okay, well, anyway. So much for that. This is where the fun begins. I wanted to get Mike to get in here. Mike! Before I came in and I commented on that. So, I think what we'll do here, since we're waiting a little longer, if I can find it. Where is it? Okay. Since we're in here kind of a minute of a prayer, I wanted Mike to comment on some of these things that I'm going to bring up. As we said, prayers for Michael Norton and his ailment that related to the hospital. I don't know if he gave me permission to say what it was, but I don't know. It's not embarrassing or anything. Anthony Holmes, someone we know from Facebook, more or less, and he dabbles in this, the work that we do, but, some people are doing this work and then they get beat up bad one way or another, and then it just comes off as just normal, natural symptoms. You might get fibromyalgia. You might get a triple or quadruple bypass. There was one year, 3 paranormal investigators that we knew had that happen. They love to be able to pinch these lines off in your heart, and then the doctor thinks you need a triple or quadruple bypass, and it's just a little demon's hand stuck in there and squeezing your heart. There was a guy they made fun of on the TV show South Park years ago who I knew from Chicago, from the the paranormal crowd, and they called him Jake the Ghost Hunter. I forgot his full name. He went into a barn that was known to have practiced Satanism, to do their EVP readings and stuff. He got picked up 4 feet from the ground, and he could feel his heart being squeezed. Because he was kind of cocky and he would taunt and stuff like that. He was the original Brian Harnoway's, I guess. Chris's client. Chris, you had someone you wanted to add to the prayer list for everybody here. This is something we're going to try to do on every show. I think it's important. Somebody passed away, correct?
Right, a 31-year-old client of mine just suddenly passed 12 hours after I last sat down with him.
Wow. That quick?
So that was 2 weeks ago. That was a moment when I had to remind myself of self-care because you get close to these clients and life happens and
yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that for them and the family, and don't forget, folks. We haven't talked about the ghosts again lately. These are, if it's even suicide, don't assume, even if they're supposed to be a wonderful person, that they went straight to heaven. Those are the ones that don't get the prayers, and they may need them the most. Some people, like, narcissistic personalities, are really good at putting on a front to give the illusion that they're really just wonderful, graceful, perfect, and all this other stuff, and people just have the perfect first impression, but they're monsters, in real life. And so the bad thing about that is, when you project a false image, is no one gets the real one, and that's bad for a variety of ways. Imagine if Jimmy Stewart, you can't fool everybody in a small town. How far would Jimmy Stewart get in the movie It's a Wonderful Life to draw all of those prayers if he really wasn't a great guy, that would give the shirt off his back and so forth, and he did everything but that in that movie. So prayers for our ministry. We have a big meeting, a big engagement at the end of the month, and we want to make sure we're not sick. So prayers that we're not sick here, that the kids aren't sick. It's been passed around literally. It's I think I get a headache, a sinus headache, before I get a head cold, and I can kill it with peroxide in the ears and drops in the nose, and sometimes it doesn't go anywhere. And this last time it did, then it went to the chest, and not directly to the chest, but Elizabeth's cough never left, so she's coughing around the house, and it's been here for 3 weeks, and finally we got it, and then my wife got it. You can't escape it in a small house, Even if a big house, you probably can't either. I don't know how big, but we just want to be all healthy so that we make this very important meeting. Very important. It's a huge meeting, and it's maybe one of the biggest ones in our ministry and our life in the ministry and everything. So prayers for it, but I can't give details. Has nothing to do with Hollywood, by the way. That's not our forte, So I guess anybody see Chris? Chris, have you seen Michael out there yet? I don't want to be talking about words.
No, I've been watching the chat line, and I have not seen him yet.
Okay, let me see where he's at on here. I'll try to call him real quick. Oh, great. What are these sound effects? I switched to a different hard drive, a backup hard drive, because I'm trying a little experiment because there's some issue we're trying to resolve here. So we'll just let that run. Hopefully it won't give us a notification for something else like, oh, yeah, you have 3 messages, or something like that. And it's not appropriate for a live show, folks, okay? I'm pretty sure that you're aware of that. Well, it looks like, Mike, we're going to have to just move on the show without you. Half hour after the show, is that what he said? It's possible to move in there. Yeah, see, it came up dead on that thing there. So I'm going to start the news. Yes, it's breaking news. Breaking for what? Let's do this one first here. This was seen in Sweden. This almost looks surreal, like we're living inside of a dome. Now, if you could see this out there, Chris, on your video monitor, isn't this just a very strange thing? I wonder if this phenomenon, or whatever you would call it, anomaly, had happened before, because it starts to make me wonder about signs in the sky. This is so strange. It adds to our discussion sometimes. It's like, where are we headed in this planet? And if I make a list of all the things that have been going on lately, even bringing up the critter invasion at Burning Man, that was kind of funny. And related events around the world, not just the so-called ring of fire causing earthquakes in Mexico and so forth. This is just an interesting point. I don't want to put any spins on it, but this is in Sweden. Wait, or was that Holland? I was confused those two. Yeah, because I'm not from there, and my ancestors aren't. But you see, it's kind of an icy world. And, this time of year. I don't know. Are they having icy temperatures all over the world or what? I haven't read anything.
I don't know. It's like nature's gone a little nuts.
Yeah, it has. It's gone crazy. But this is kind of a segment we call AI Watch because they keep updating and bringing stuff in. We had this video of Sophie talking. There's another one where she's talking, and I don't want to. I didn't get a lot together for the production stuff this week. That's a problem with not, having someone just do it for you, and then you show up with a box of Kleenex and everything's done. All you got to do is show up. But in the interview, this Sophie was cracking jokes. One of them was kind of scary. It was a joke about robots taking over the world or something like that, and she says, "I'm just kidding," or something like that, joking, and did it with a straight face. It's just weird. But what's funny about this thing is that the people are all getting kind of scared and all that stuff, and the reality is it's so far behind. They've been doing this with computer animations on video games for a while, pre-programmed responses, which they all really are. You can put thousands and hundreds of responses in. You can teach it Spanish, and then everything you can say to it can answer in Spanish, I'm sure, I'm sure it's been done. And, of course, this is a headline we grabbed. It's a little older. Stephen Hawking, we're going to listen to him. He's just a guy who has all the time on his hands. He says artificial intelligence robots will replace humans completely. This is stupid. You remember the $6 million man? Do you think companies can afford a $6 million man even? These robots cost more than that? And these prototypes, when are they going to be able to mass produce them? If they can walk and do this work, and then they're going to have to be insured. If it does damage, the company could be sued for libel, and you might see them drop really fast. If they start delivering Amazon boxes by helicopters, or I don't know how they're going to do that even, Chris. Wasn't there something like Amazon was going to deliver packages by drone? Do you really think so? I don't want my package hanging from some distant, unless it's got guns on it.
Yeah,
and then some guy's walking down my street, some vagrant, and then he's like seeing this box, like, cool, and he picks up a rock and he hurls it at it and drops my package, breaks it or steals it. Do you know what that's about? Is that something? Did you really hear anything like that? Like Amazon's gonna try to deliver packages by drone, and it doesn't even make sense. It sounds like their heads are in a fantasy land or something. We don't even have cars that drive good, that way. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I read a statement about that about a month ago, and they were going to, that was going to be the new thing, and they were going to hopefully set the model for other companies, but then I never heard anything else, so.
Yeah. Probably because they get the dream, and then like NASA, they come up with these ideas like, hey, let's go to Mars. That sounds great. Hey, let's all spend all this money on it. Oh, it's going to cost this much money. It's going to take 7 years, and they don't have enough fuel and food to make it there in 7 years that we can store on board and still get it off the ground. Oh, they go past the Van Allen belt. We'll have to make the whole thing out of, 6 feet of lead. You're gonna launch a lead rocket to protect them from the Van Allen belt and hope it doesn't mess the electronics up, guidance system doesn't mess the food up, doesn't hurt the people on board. Because what are you gonna do about radiation sickness? You just can't go home and cancel it. Say, okay, Apollo, it's not mission control. Apollo says it's not going very well. Can they go back home and get the guys in position for splashdown? Like you're gonna just launch the shuttle. Spaceship and then get it into the Earth's atmosphere and then abort. Science is like it's some things have advanced, but other things it's like they want to get people to invest on ignorance. Like with this net neutrality thing that came out, that was rescinded because there is freaky government control stuff in there. Does everybody want the government policing the internet? Or the international tribunal that might have been probably appointed by Angela. I was going to say Angela Lansbury. She does look a little bit like that. Angela Lansbury, Murder, She Wrote. Angela Merkel. It's kind of like that. But this is the technology thing is when they pass things in Congress and Senate, they usually don't understand what they're writing and passing. I don't want to get political here, but it's the same for us humans on this. The rest of us who don't do robotics for a living, and I think they know this stuff. Like I said, when they projected this idea of the Mars mission, people don't realize that we can't even fly the speed of light. That if we decided to do a manned mission to the nearest star, Alpha Centauri, we'd have to be able to travel at the speed of light for let's see. Oh my gosh, I used to know this. 4.5 light years. See, I still remember it. So that means traveling at the speed of light for 4.5 light years in order to reach the nearest star, which they call Alpha Centauri. That's impossible to travel the speed of light. But this Congress or the Senate or venture capitalists, if they get a really good pitch, they'll probably buy it, especially if it's from somebody reputable like NASA or this company here, that's Future Investments Initiative. That might just be the venture capitalist, or where they're sitting around and a bunch of different proposals are coming up from companies and say, hey, invest in this fembot, kind of thing here. So watch this.
Now everything doesn't go exactly the way it's supposed to.
This is just a riot. Oh my gosh. I should play that one over and over again. Oh my gosh. Did you get to check it out, Chris? We're trying to see if Chris can get connected to the technology so he can comment and review. Did you see
Yeah, and they come out with some freaky ones from their Boston Dynamics. They came out with one that was like a dog.
Oh yeah, that's it. It is Boston too. So
yeah.
What's significant about this? Okay, we'll point it out a little bit here.
Now everything doesn't go exactly the way it's supposed to.
Everybody says that no one wants to do these jobs of working in a warehouse. That's what they tell us is bull, though. But he can't even do that. He's like trying to stack a box on there, and there's something in the way. See, you put variables in there. Like some idiot put something on the shelf that doesn't belong there. He doesn't even know to look for it because it's black, or it's shorter than the box he's looking at that has a target painted on it. And then he's trying to back away to compensate for the mess. It's like a Jerry Lewis moment. Like, oh, lady, oh, lady. You can hear the Stephen Hawking kind of robot voice coming out of it. And he gets his paw stuck on the cart and then starts to back up and try to remove it. And then it's almost like he gives up, It's like, okay, I got to play this again. It's just too funny. Okay, so he puts
now
the
everything
box
doesn't
on
go exactly the way it's supposed to.
He's actually missing the cart and knocks it out of the way, pushes it, shoves it out of the way, drops the box, then starts to back off and pulls the cart. And then you see behind it, he just kind of gives up and flops down like, oh, well, I give up. You think there'll be like a robot suicide watch? Oh, my gosh. This is what I'm trying to tell you, people. We're so way behind. You know how many servos and motors and things that they have to program into this and wire into it, and you know how many potentially could go out because they were made in China. I mean, we got you buy electronic parts and they sell you electronic parts that have the wrong values on them because they can sell them to you for the price of what those parts would be, but they're not what they say they are. It's counterfeit. It's like when you go to eBay and you buy a 64 gigabyte thumb drive. There's a bunch of Chinese resources that are reprogramming, for example, like 16 gigabyte or 8 gigabyte. They reprogram the header, the file allocation table, in the electronics on there to show that it's 64 gigabyte. But the problem is when you dump your pictures on there and you get over 8 or 16 or whatever it really is, it'll go back to byte 0, and it'll start writing over the first photos that you dumped on there. And it'll keep doing that over and over again. So they have an app out there, and also because you get the small cards too, a software program that you download, and you run it, and it actually tests to see if your thumb drive is legit and it's real by writing fake files to it. It doesn't take that long, and then it tells you, well, My wife bought one off of eBay, and that happened to her, and we told them, it says, this is counterfeit. But luckily, eBay, like Amazon, will back you up on that stuff. And it doesn't matter what they say. It's like, here's the proof. Here's the log file. You want to see it? But you gotta understand. It's like the high quality parts are going to be very expensive. I have a Xerox machine from 2006, and it's amazing how expensive every little part is in these things. And I was just thinking about, like, if I didn't fix these things myself, can you imagine it's like you're going to send this robotics guy? I know there's some people out there thinking about their kids or themselves like, drool, lots of money there, fix robotics. All right, there's already people in school for it. I don't know how many people really want to do that. There's something like us geeks are only like 3% of the population or less. Because those are the jobs people don't want to do because they're not interested in them. They don't, care to do it. It's boring or whatever. It's not the warehouse workers. That's easier. Stack some boxes, go home at the end of the day, and, go to your favorite pub on Friday. If you're single, go out ladies' night Thursday. I don't know. The routine is there. But, to be all honest with you, I think that the reality is I think what we should do with these robots is make them into circus performers and entertainment people. We're kind of getting tired of the entertainment we got already because mankind is moving to the gladiators next. Just wait until we'll get a president like Nero sometime down the road, like maybe 12 years later, and we're gonna they're gonna probably legalize like for prisoners or whatever group they don't like, be legally massacred for entertainment purposes. It has happened so many times. Why wouldn't it happen here in some century or day? Hopefully, the end of this planet will come by then, as the Book of Revelations, the Apocalypse would say here. But check this out. Let's see. Make sure we have the volume for it. It's kind of funny in itself. These are expensive. This robot looks like he fell asleep. And this is like there too. It's like they give up. Take one step and put one foot in front of the other. Watch this. He's opening the door up, and the doorknob just comes off, and he falls. Don't rely on the doorknob to hold yourself up. Oh my gosh, it's like looking at babies. Oh, here we go. Don't fall asleep at a job. You think they got problems? And gold brickers? Just hire a metal bricker. This one is like, is he trying to undo a safe? It's like, where's that handle? I swear they give up or something. You see this stuff? Oh my gosh. This guy, look at his legs. This guy's afraid to get off of that surface. Oh, it's such a long way down. It's such a long way down. These poor robots, they're petrified. Just wait till there's a robots advocacy group. Wait for the ACLU to come up with something like that. Something to represent the robot. What?
I was just going to say, it looks like I may have to be in business for counseling robots with addiction tendencies.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Oh, it's so funny because all of them have some kind of personality in the way they fall over. I know it's not possible, and stuff, because they didn't program it in there on purpose, but it's like watching squirrels when they wipe out, but all of those, it looked like a lot of them fell asleep, and just decided just to keel over. That one takes too big of a step, and he just falls over. I don't know. Does that mean? Oh, Michael.
Hey.
All right. Maybe I should leave that tone on. Now I actually knew when Michael called in. Yeah, Mike, you can't really watch the videos when you're on Skype, can you? Unless you got on a separate machine, or maybe watched it on your cell phone.
No, I usually do. It's I'm on my computer right now. That's what I logged into, so I'm pulling up the videos and stuff now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were just talking about AI in the form of robotics, starting with Sophie and talking about how you see, Sophie likes to tell jokes, Chris. So instead, they're going the wrong direction. Don't get a robot who tells jokes like stand-up comedians or old Milton Berle, one punchlines. But how about give them Jerry Lewis type comedian roles and stuff? The physical comedies, the new Chevy Chases. And that's what we're showing. And we showed a montage of all these robots. And when they fall over and stuff, it's just funny. Every one of them is like a Jerry Lewis or a Chevy Chase. This one, its legs were shaking when it was trying to get off a tractor. And it was like he was standing over the edge of a bridge, getting ready to jump off of there with a parachute. It's like he was just like, he was nervous. It was too, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Or I should do it in a robot voice, but, it's more fun when they do it in a robot voice instead of the Sophie voice, which tries to be like a female because she looks like one, or it does. It looks like a she. And part of this thing what we're mentioning is, Mike, that this stuff is so expensive. It's going to be expensive to maintain. Why do they think that this is going to replace our jobs? Are they trying to get people scared to get, I'm not even going to go to work. A robot will be there tomorrow and take my job. Well, it's not like it's a Chrysler plant where they're welding. That's
Exactly.
just an arm. But I think that, when they think they're going to replace them at McDonald's flipping burgers and stuff, even. That's when I don't never.
That they can do. They can replace some people with McDonald's flipping burgers. That they can do.
Sounds like an episode of SpongeBob, and they automated the Krusty Krab. Yeah.
The Krusty Krab.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So everybody don't get all worked up on that kind of stuff. And I said, someone asked one time, it's like the $6 million man. Oh, by the way, Mike, you're in charge of being in the chat room and bringing whatever people say in the chat room into because the gals aren't in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Deb's not with us tonight, so it's just my three sons. It's just the three guys. Tap your feet to it. But this is a great topic. I was waiting for you to come in before I brought up another one. Luckily, this one carries itself, and we'll bring up some more on it because these robot things are funny. I just got to watch that again. Let me look at that again with the robot.
Now, everything doesn't go exactly the way it's supposed to.
Oh, look, get out of the way. Oh, shoot. Drop the box. Go great. I broke it. I'm going to lose my job. Well, forget it.
They need it. It's for a real AI, it has to swear. Whenever it does something like that, it's got to swear.
Mm. Oh,
like there. Someone never.
That should go right along with America's Funniest Animals. You think they'll declare robots an animal? You think that'll happen?
I don't know, but they have the audacity to call them new life forms now. And they may replace our God. I'm just laughing at who dreams this stuff up? Who really thinks they can actually do that?
Yeah, Chris is looking for a book so he can actually be the therapist for robots.
Exactly. Job safety.
How are you going to mess with a complex AI? They're going to need psychologists, I'm telling you. Not the robot neurologist, which would be what? CPU, programmer, I guess, AI programmer. Go in there and find out, where's my lines of code? Just stand here and look at the computer screen for, a few days. And, I found something here. Let me try that. Oh, great. Go subroutine error, like they used to say in BASIC. Boy, we're back to the Stone Age. All right, let's move along there. This one's just too funny. I could talk about this one all day. So if you call that AI Watch, don't expect it anytime soon. I'm sure they're not even going to cost $6 million to just hire one. And these guys, come in there and they smoke on their break, and they bring a bologna sandwich every day and call their wife at lunch. I mean, they're going to be a lot cheaper, even at $15 an hour if the minimum wage goes up everywhere, than paying off an $8 million robot. Because in a lifetime, that guy won't cost $1 million. So you got some clumsy robot trying to stack boxes on the shelf with items that you like not broken. Because your company needs that stuff not broken. Oh, give me a break, huh? Give me a break. That's a piece of that Kit Kat bar. So it's rolling along smooth tonight. Time to move on to the next one. This one's always fun to beat up on one of these. So you might have heard about Chelsea Clinton got caught tweeting to a Satanist, telling him, the Church of Satan, Happy New Year, Church of Satan. I thought Satanists weren't happy. I thought that was one of the problems there. It's like it sounds. I don't know. We have to check with somebody. The people that make the like the Tim Burton. See what they say for putting in a movie. Oh, you're supposed to say, terrible New Year for you. I don't know. I'd know that in Russian. Then you'd throw the word comrade in there if it was to do with communist Russia. Comrade, terrible New Year for you. Anyway, so Chelsea Clinton Wednesday denied she practices Satanism after a Trump supporter on Twitter. They always got to put that Trump supporter stuff in there. Quit putting the politics in there. I'm just trying to read this. On Twitter, took the farmer's first daughter's exchange of New Year's wishes with the Church of Satan to mean she was affiliated with the group. Well, that's usually the first place I go when I want to say Happy New Year to
right.
on Twitter. Is just to go run off and then, they're top of my list for Christmas cards, too. She says, I'm a Methodist and my husband's Jewish. Okay. Thank you for asking. All right. Clinton responded to the woman after Clinton and the model Chrissy Teigen, whoever they were tagged in a Twitter thread with the account. Well, that's funny about Twitter accounts, too. That I'm still getting to know about Twitter because I don't really frequent that stuff. That you can hashtag, and then the person who you're hashtagging or, name dropping in there, it's like Facebook on that, I guess, but better. That's one way to get someone to notice something you put up, and I got some. That's probably how I should present some stuff to Drudge, and I got some, hey, here's some news items. I want to get this out there. So far, it hasn't worked. Let's see. With the account for Hooters restaurants, they were tagged in a Twitter thread with the accounts for Hooters restaurants. That's strange. Also, this gal, the Trump supporter, worked at Hooters. See, I told everybody you should have voted for Trump. All the cool people are there. Clinton responded in 2017 at Church of Satan. I still like some of these high school girls. Church of Satan, where I put a few threads together. In 2018, it's at Hooters, what a time I believe to be, what a time to be alive, Chrissy. The Church of Satan saw the tweet and wished Clinton a Happy New Year, too. What are they up to? Anyway, scroll down here a little bit. So that's what we're trying to see. Okay, so first is the response here. Hey, let's go to this first before we go back to the apologist part. This is the tweet. Church of Satan, I were putting on a few threads together in 2018. It's at Hooters. What a time to be alive, Christy. So they were putting a few threads together in 2018, so she was working with the Church of Satan. They got some kind of charity event going on for kids or something? What do you want to add? John Podesta and, who are some other pedophiles out there and stuff? The never-ending excitement here is never-ending. Yeah, it's been so long. Happy New Year. So long what? Since you were first indoctrinated, as a child? Same to you. Here's to a great 2008. Well, we know what day 2008 is for them to be great. Yeah, don't like it. So, more apologies. Can't we be civil, cheerful, and respectable of friends with people who don't share our religious beliefs sometimes? Wait a minute, now she's who don't share religious beliefs, so she has no problem with that. So they've lightened it up like they did communism. That forget about Stalin, that he murdered more people than Hitler did. Forget about Lenin, who helped usher it all in. And then you got the first family of the previous presidency, all wearing Hugo Chavez T-shirts.
Right.
Did you see that? They look really proud of it too. The communist dictator, era was ruled in. Cuba became communist because of him. That's funny. You bring a guy in with a bray and he takes the government down, and they bring in communism. Then something far worse. It happens all the time, doesn't it? Like with Russia, I'm a Methodist, blah blah blah. So I don't know. But what say you guys? Say a few things so I can do my thing that people do when they're sick real quick. Make some comments there. Talk amongst yourselves. Just a minute.
A little bit clamped here. That's the first I've seen this one. It's kind of funky, huh?
Yeah, that's and my question is, what been so long since one? And I was watching the chat feed here, and they were still going on about the AI. And my question is, robots serve a purpose, so why do we have to make them human? They do human jobs.
Mm-hmm. They don't have to look at a human to vacuum your floor. They don't have to look like a human to, pick crops. They don't have to look like a human to package, stuff they do like at Amazon. So yeah, it's just they don't have to look like humans.
Yeah, someone made a comment about, what are humans doing while robots take over all the jobs? Of course, I replied that maybe everyone's going to be sitting around being deprogrammed.
Right. Staring at their phones.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I thought that was kind of shocking. It's like, last person in the world I'd want to organize, last group in the world I want to organize probably is next to ISIS. A New Year's Eve party with ISIS. Hey, come check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Is this? How would people forget the reputation of stuff? And it's just crazy. Right, I think that's... is the show flowing as well as we'd like to tonight without my sidekick?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like sometimes I wonder. It's like, I guess I would be. Let's see, what's a good, like Jerry Lewis? Yeah, I guess she's Jerry Lewis to my Dean Martin or something. It's like, am I the straight man in this couple? I'm the one with the more dry wit, and she's I'd say Dharma and Greg. I really can't really come up.
Oh God.
Yeah, something like that. Or you guys remember Jack Benny and I don't know. Right. Anyway, so enough of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing about that Twitter makes any sense. I'm trying to read this, and it's like, how do you mix a supermodel, Clinton, Hooters, and the Church of Satan all into one tweet? Well, there you go.
Well, there's a lot of good-looking girls out there still, so you wonder how the supermodel got into Satanism or got into modeling.
Mm-hmm.
Some
Sign here.
There's some really crappy bands out there that you're wondering how they got a recording label, and you find out, Church of Satan, okay. Kind of typical, isn't it? Well, here it comes again, the coughing. Let me get a drink here. The show must go on. That's what I said tonight. Sure. I told Deb. Deb's like, oh, come on, Ken. Don't tell me you don't want a little bit of vacation time, And I said, oh, come on. The show's like my Cheers bar, or something.
That's right. Yeah.
Without the alcohol and the people in the same room. Well, so what should we bring in here? I guess we'll just go ahead and put this in here to... we'll go straight to Ask a Demonologist live Q&A. Didn't know how far we're going to get on the news items. It's hard to say. The more people we have in the round table, the more opinions that we have. Right. Believe it or not. If we have some questions out there and it's on the bottom, it doesn't mean it's last on the agenda. And that is to take questions from the chat room. And you can go ahead and post them in there. And Mike, are you in the chat room, Mike?
I am, and I don't think there's a lot of people there. I think there's 2 other people there than me.
Okay.
We got Michelle and we got influential pins here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't advertise the show tonight, and it's like I want to see how far it goes anyway, because the archive is getting all the hits, and that. We have several questions here, but there's something I wanted to start with, and feel free to jump in at any time, gentlemen. And that's a supplemental for the if I spelled that right, by the way, supplemental. I don't know. Where's my grammar Nazi? For the 2 segments that we did on the last 2 shows, episode 10 and episode 11, that were 2 weeks ago. The last one was. And that is, the supplemental would be some last-minute ideas. Don't try to find relics to buy. We might have said this, but really it's not realistic. Unless you get blessed and some priestess in your family and he gives you one, or don't expect to buy one. Don't even try to buy one. So it shouldn't even really be in the list. It's just that you can make third-class relics. The thing is I'm not sure that, and maybe one of you could fill in on that one. If you take a third-class relic and you touch it to the glass, you know how there's a pane of glass usually when they have them on display somewhere, like they did at our church last year. Is that the same? You don't have to actually touch the relic. You can just touch the glass that's housing the relic, right? You know, I mean, and a third-class relic, you don't, and you know what I mean? Because people ask those kind of questions, and they're like, didn't think of that before. You know, so because we've done it that way too. You know, we took something we had and we touched it to, say, Teresa relic or whatever that was first class, and made it a third-class relic, I thought. Because it's just pressed in this glass like a glass frame, and then you touch it up to it, and so I guess it's, I don't know. I started thinking about the way they got third-class relics before, because they actually touch things to the body of the saint or something instead of going up, walking up to the glass where one of the uncorruptible saints are in and touching it to the glass or whatever. What do you guys say? Christopher, you wanted to start with that, and Michael, be on deck next?
All right.
Yeah, while you're talking about that, there's a wonderful place in Northwest Missouri at Clyde Convent, and they have a relic room, and basically it is quite extensive, but I never, even though I've been Catholic all my life, I never really got into relics. I was like, well, that's a little odd, but okay. But now, to me, I've just come to understand, they're an extra sign of, like I said last time, they're an extra sign to me of God's presence, and that, I am surrounded by, like Paul says, surrounded by the cloud of heavenly witnesses. And, what could be more powerful, outside of, Christ's presence? You're surrounded by the family of faith. So.
Yeah. Mike, anything to add to that? Even about relics themselves. It's something that we hadn't talked about. You were there the last time we did the show 2 weeks ago. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends, too. Like we pointed back to, I think it was Father Ken pointed out, too, that the whole idea behind the relic is we've seen it biblically in the book of Acts with Paul when he blessed the handkerchief, right? So items can be blessed and can carry certain significance. And I believe when we're looking at holy relics from saints, that they do carry just a piece or a history or something of the glory of God that comes down. So yeah, they do have some sort of power there. Like I said, I know you stand in awe when you see some of these things, and there's something kind of creepy. I remember when I was back in Hungary, I think I saw the finger or something of St. Augustine. It was you go, that's St. Augustine's finger, that's kind of creepy, but it's just, you feel in awe that there's actually history, that person actually existed.
Yeah. That reminds me of something too. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that Chris was going to add something. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of back up that feeling, it's, some people think, oh my gosh, body parts, you got the finger here and a skull here and a toe here, but, it's like Michael said, it's like, it's that verification that, this is a real thing, this is a real person, and this is a real testimony.
Yeah, and it's an interesting topic too, because it doesn't come up because the questions that are asked, and no one else thought to ask them before, and these kind of answer some of the questions. Some of these things you brought in, it's like, wow, the finger. It's like, I only just see this little chip. It looks like a bone or a piece of cloth. The cloth, that's a common one, and second class relic is a cloth because it's Padre Pio's clothes or his glove, like my wife has, the relic of his glove. That's second class. And how are you going to get bones and stuff unless you pick at it? And they used to steal them, some of them. And of course, that's probably going to...
There's actually a question right now in the chat room based on what you just said.
Yeah.
What about medals with a relic cloth on the back? The kind where they're rubbed on it with a first or second class.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's still cloth, so it's second class, right? By pretty much... say that way. First class is part of their body, and second class is clothes. Now, if Padre Pio's crucifix or something that he wore daily as a monk, or our towel, for some reason, we become a saint or something on that. Just kidding there. That's not possible. No, just kidding. I just can't see it, And the cross is, like given to a relative. I mean, is considered a second-class relic. If I somehow became a saint, I think so. I mean, because it's like part of your clothing. And it's not like you wear your shirt every day, the same shirt, right? Now, Padre Pio did wear the glove all the time, but I'm sure he washed them or something. Who knows? I don't know. Don't you think he just didn't wear the same glove all the time? The same gloves. I mean, not glove, but something else to add about the relics that it made me think of, when people are like, they're looking at things of, like when you desecrate a grave. And we got to bring something up about sainthood even. Like, let's say somebody dies, and we were talking earlier about how someone can project themselves as being really wonderful and churchy and holy. Like Sister Magdalena of the Cross. Look it up online, people, if you want to read about that one. That was a creepy one. The one who actually made a pact with Satan at the age of 5 so she could be like the holiest saint-like person who ever lived, and got discovered in her 40s. After her charade went on for a long time, even becoming Reverend Mother at her convent, that she pulled the wool over people's eyes. And what happened if she did not get discovered and she died and they canonized her a saint? Because all they looked at was the miracles, and she was, what I mean? Supposed miracles, because you look and you find all the miracles could have been sleight of hand, or she got pregnant. And she did reveal the source, and then she says, like she went in to have a baby, and it's like the baby disappeared. And it sounds like Satanism to me, like that the people who don't believe in the satanic and that sort of thing will start to come up with these UFO stories that I got pregnant by a UFO alien and the baby got stolen. I woke up, it was gone. Well, I mean. I'm sure she probably snuck out and had a night on the town and stuff without the sisters knowing, and then acted ignorant, like it's some sort of virgin birth or something, and that's a miracle. And I think the church would start questioning those so-called miracles later on, even if they didn't discover that she had a footlocker of unconsecrated host, so she could avoid going to communion. She can just do a sleight of hand and have it look like it magically appeared on her tongue. But, I mention this because if she was canonized as saint, and the church is very careful, and they scrutinize it much. That's why even Padre Pio didn't get canonized as saint until, let's see, Pope, did John Paul II canonize? I guess so, Padre Pio? Yeah. So he did it first.
Yeah.
What if they canonize Sister Magdalena of the Cross because she got away with her masquerade? God revealed it, but what if you're having a devotion? What if you started a novena to Sister Magdalena of the Cross? You're praying to someone who could be in hell. She might have paid her dues. I don't know. I'm just saying here's an example. You'd be praying to a spirit in hell. In other words, that's almost like necromancy. Do you want to do accidental necromancy? That you're communicating with an unholy spirit, and that's why you got to watch false apparitions, folks. False Marian apparitions. In a way, you're kind of doing the same thing. You're giving honor and veneration to a demon pretending to be Mary, going to the site where it projected its ugly self there, masquerading as the Blessed Mother. You got to watch that too. Watch for ones that aren't church approved, and follow it very with a lot of skepticism.
My question with that would be kind of what I'm thinking about. If I don't know that, and if I honestly think someone is in God's grace, living, the life with God on the other side, would God's grace protect that and not necessarily allow the prayer to go to that person that is obviously not with Him, obviously not in heaven? So would if I'm acting out of pure ignorance, not on my part, would God intervene?
I see. You know what else adds to that? the Pope declares them a saint. That's not the same as starting a personal veneration like Archbishop Fulton Sheen. I think Mother Angelica was special. If she was in heaven, I would say I'd pray for intercession. Hey, help us to really get our broadcast going. Or Francis de Sales or Archbishop Fulton Sheen, who does kind of like what we do a little bit, just less dramatic and without the cardinal outfit. But you know what I mean. we're doing it, and we moved to a TV ministry from in a sort of educational format. But yeah, I know what you mean. There's going to be some protocols that. If you do it when the Pope had declared it, it does change. It doesn't matter if you like the Pope or not. When something's done like that, it doesn't make them a saint when they're not, but you would be protected probably if you're, it depends on the prayers too. Like if there's a consecration prayer to, a condemned soul, but that's only done with you consecrate yourself, like Padre Pio or something like that, but. Yeah, I'm sure there's a protocol once the Pope does it. I'm sure there's a protection thing in case it's wrong. I mean, no Pope is perfect, like no human since Mary and Jesus had a that level of perfection and not. So it's called a grave desecration when you take something off a body that's dead. They're not saints, and you pay for it because when they go to hell. They take advantage of the fact that you took a part of them to make that a doorway, to make it as minions of devils. Because if you put that in your house, that old man from the farmhouse, and you took a bone because you found a finger bone when you were playing Ghost Hunter, and you brought it to your house, you brought you gave him access to your house as a human spirit.
Yep.
The demon's going to use him to get legal right by making things go bump, and you're going to get Ouija boards and ghost boxes, psychic mediums, and then you give the demon legal right by breaking the first commandment and so forth. So the human spirit can continue to do the bidding of the demon as a human who had a physical presence and legal right over property once, including his own body or his or her own body. I don't know if I'm losing everybody on that, but then feel free to fill it in a little bit on that. But that's what we're looking at to some degree. Whose dog was that?
That was my dog. I just canceled out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a little furry toy poodle here, and it's much you can kind of hardly hear it. Just sounds like a snork. So yeah, it can go on a little bit. Anything to add to that would be something that I want to say, but that's why it's not desecrating a grave, taking it off as saint, and it's the attention too. If it was like Adolf Hitler trying to get the Ark of the Covenant or whatever, and Indiana Jones, that's not the same as a person like John of La Crosse taking a relic from his partner in faith of Saint Teresa.
Yeah.
And where when you pretty much know they were a saint, you're not going to bring it's not desecrating, and it's not when you can steal it, and you're not their best friend or something. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to need Judge Judy or something, but that when you know they're not a condemned spirit, you're not cursing yourself. You'll bring a blessing with it. It's the way the person lived and everything. It's just like people are cursed and people are blessed. It's just like an item. You take that item from Aleister Crowley's house, or you take it from Padre Pio's cell. Which item's going to be haunted, and which one's going to probably bring the essence of Padre Pio's intercession? That you have a relic. So I don't know if we try to simplify things around here because it makes you understand it even more. We had a really good electronics teacher back in '86, and he was very good at explaining things. I didn't even need to bring my textbooks. His name was Frank Stewart. God rest his soul. Really funny guy too. But some teachers you really connect with really good, and I can always read his mind. When I was in that tech school, it was Lynn Technical School. I think they call it Lynn State now. So, moving along, we'll go a little bit more, and then we'll take our break. Okay, special blessing. Yeah, here we go. Hold on. It's live TV, folks. Can you imagine if I was standing in front of a curtain like Johnny Carson? You know? And if I can only finish my monologue. Hello!
Hello!
Yeah, that's it. A special blessing must be used for most. And we're still talking about the Sacramentals here for you, those who just joined. Special blessing for the St. Benedict medal, the Blessed Mother medal, which is the miraculous medal. And we have, we'll go and talk about the divinely inspired stuff in a minute, and then things should be exercised, holy water, holy oil, candles, frankincense, and myrrh. They should be exercised and then blessed. Those are special blessings. That's what we mean by it anyway. So you terminology Nazis, which we run into on Facebook from time to time, I've already stated what I meant, okay? So no need to correct it and put the word sick in brackets or something in there if I misspell a word. Yeah, there's a guy who did that. It turned out to be a phony. That was pretty funny. And it's like I'd write something and then he would like correct it. I think that's what it is. People with that pride or whatever. So that just needs to be said. It's a good idea to add extra prayers of devotion. If you're having problems with your and you're looking for the protection attributes of the St. Benedict medal, for example, it would probably be a good idea to create a special devotion to St. Benedict in addition to getting the blessed medal, which is exercised and blessed better by a Benedictine priest, which are not that many around. We still have one in town here, and when he goes to the nursing home and totally retires, or wherever they go, the priest retirement home, I'm probably going to bring him a box of them every once in a while still. It's not my current parish. The family's current parish is, and they're all about 5 minutes away from us. So we're in a pretty good location here in the Bible Buckle. But that's a good thing to add to it. There's a Saint Benedict prayer on the card, the flyer that we give out with the Saint Benedict medals, and worn or carried. Is also, even though it's not on a separate bullet point, that it's better to, when they're medals and they're meant to hang on a chain, don't put it in your wallet, guys. Don't put it in your purse, ladies. It's meant to go around your neck. It's not going to be the same when it's close to your body and you're wearing it day and night in the shower, in the bathtub. And Deb was here tonight. She'll tell you a story that years ago. She took her St. Benedict medal and hung it on the knob in the tub. Went to bed that night without it. She got sleep paralysis and had some hag thing floating over her with a disproportionate stretched mouth. And Deb, lived through that horrific story. And then once it gets that bad, it's hard to. You got to do a lot to keep it off you like that. And it's really difficult for people to do a lot of spiritual habits that are not the typical Christian Catholic, church on Sundays and trying to follow the Ten Commandments. And once you've been through those things, you got to do a lot of extra things, and it's easy to fall a little short in a period like when things get stressful. You can add something to any of that. Feel free to jump in any time. Sacraments are often like a silent intercessionary prayer. In other words, you wear the St. Benedict medal. It's not even just the medal itself. It's got symbols on it that represent words like "drink thine own poison," and that are it's like wearing a prayer. It's like a prayer being said, and to intercession from Saint Benedict, for example. So instead of treating it like a charm, like good luck medallion and all that stuff, you'll avoid superstition, as superstitious notions. And how do people best do that? To some degree, because some things are really hard to not cross that line. Like when you cross being proud of your achievements with pride, that is offensive to God and to others to some degree. When do you not forgive somebody because you haven't forgotten? When have you not forgiven them? Even though you act like it, and down deep inside you may not. That was a hard one to dig out. But when is a crossing superstition? Mike, Chris, what's a good indication of that? What's your thoughts on that?
Marge, you want to take this one?
I'm still processing.
Let me go back.
That's going to be a deep one here.
Mm-hmm. I asked the tough questions, don't I?
Right, yeah, that's a tough one.
You didn't tell me there's going to be a test today. That's what you guys should have said.
Well, let's just look at it this way. Let's look at the paranormal shows. They run into a haunted place with a cross out front.
Yeah.
With no faith behind it. Absolutely no faith. That becomes like a superstitious relic. Well, the people are going to go away because of Jesus. Well, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
But these people are wielding it. And all of a sudden they get attacked. Well, I thought the cross was supposed to protect. This is straight out of Ghost Adventures. I thought the cross was supposed to protect us. We're getting scratched. Well, there it was. You're using it as a superstitious item rather than having your faith back it up. It wasn't so much the power of the cross, but it's the power of who the cross represents.
Oh, that's true too. And it's a cross instead of a crucifix.
Right.
And
right. Yeah.
Add something to that.
Exactly. And people often want, that goes, that's the easy way. Well, if this supposedly has the blessing of God, then I don't have to really do anything except hang this up or put this in my house.
Right.
No, like Michael said, you have to have the faith in the someone behind what this represents, which is if it's a cross, hey, you have your faith in Jesus, hopefully, and that's what brings in God's power.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of hoping it's going to do all the work for you and you don't have to do anything in addition. So,
right.
What we found out for some degree of time, and it's short, it's about 3 months, there's a grace period where you'll be able to write on it like that. And that grace period applies to a lot of things, and it's usually about 3 months, about 90 days. That's where the person gets to realize that, there is a power in that faith and all this other stuff, and then they need to learn from it. And it's kind of it's temporary, even when they're not baptized. And if they've been instructed to baptize and told all of what they need to do to go further with it, say, okay, you've been demonstrated, that the church and its authority has gotten rid of a problem none of your paranormal investigators or witches or psychic mediums have been able to solve, or scientists like in the old days. It's not that long ago I was having debates with people on, it wasn't Facebook, because, it was near MySpace, on web forums, like the infamous International Ghost Hunter Society, IGHS, Dr. Dave and Dr. Sharon. They turned out to have...
oh my gosh, I remember those guys, yeah.
And they were arguing with me about the Ouija board and stuff like that. Yeah. And people were pretending, even Ron Fail, he was pretending to be a doctor with his wife, Dr. Susan Fail. They were, I don't care about mentioning names, sue me. It's a fact. They were calling themselves doctor, and, they're calling themselves doctors. That's how people tried to put themselves out there in the mainstream in the paranormal with experts, and then they went to Roman collars later on, like a lot of people did, or tried to claim to be bishops, exorcists. And, we're going to see what we can do about that, get this nationwide list of all the dioceses, for the blacklist, and so look out, people. Look out. All the phonies are going to, be called out immediately. There's not going to have to be any background check when they get a hold of people. So, maybe, okay, we'll go ahead and we'll take our break, and we'll go back to disposal of unholy items and some other questions. And I think I have some other ones that we might bring up. This is kind of probably just a curiosity question. I don't know if I'm going to bring it up about the Ouija board, like both hands on the planchette. These are some questions presented from people in the last 2 weeks. And
we just had one on the chat line, too, about women in a family for several generations that experience negative emotions, and is that a generational curse?
Can you hold on
and
to that?
And they wanted us to touch on that. So
okay. All right, we won't take that long of a one. We might... Okay. We'll be right back, and we'll continue with the question and answer forum, and present the questions. And don't forget to subscribe, look for our videos when we put them on YouTube, and support us on there, as well as our Facebook page, which you're watching this video right now live at the facebook.com/TheRealDeal. It's pretty easy to find. And Twitter, not active there that much. Really haven't gotten to it. And don't forget, Farah will be back next week, and so will Deb Johnson, to to fill our Fab Five. And we'll be right back after these messages.
This is Kenneth Deel along with my wife, Farah Deel, and we're going to talk to you real quick about our books. We have 5 books available right now and 1 on deck. The books are the Catholic Demonologist Handbook along with the Workbook and Study Guide, and the Christian Demonologist Handbook along with the Workbook and Study Guide. And that's for all denominations. Well, we also have the Haunting Self-Help Guidebook.
Any and all of these books are going to help direct you to not just the natural causes, prevention, prayers to assist you, to keep you and your family protected.
Yes, real solutions done by real people in the field. And we're sharing our knowledge and information to help you help yourself, or help a friend or a client if you're in the field yourself.
www.swordsofstmichael.org or
www.catholicdemonologist.com. You can buy the books direct and get them personally signed.
Are you looking for something special to remind you what a mystical experience prayer can be? Are you looking for something beautiful to hang in your car for protection? Try Prayers by the Bead. You'll find a variety of original, one-of-a-kind Anglican prayer beads, Lutheran, Methodist, Catholic prayer beads that are made to your specification using our materials or your materials made to order in just about any design that inspires you to get prayed right up.
Farah has about over 100 in her inventory pre-made, and guys, yes, there's plenty of rosaries and designs for you to give to your father, for yourself, for your own prayer life.
We have a variety of exorcism medals, including the St. Benedict cross, beads, anything for your spiritual warfare needs. So, if you'd like some more information, find my page on Facebook, Prayers by the Bead.
www.etsy.com/shop/FarahRose.
Or on Facebook, Prayers by the Bead.
Now that's what you call a cut. Welcome back to the Real Deals -1. Well, -2 for the rest of the team. But my co-hostess with the mostest, Farah Rose, is under the weather, as you can probably hear with mine. I was going to play something for you guys, but I think we played enough fun stuff tonight. But this is really funny, and I'll save it for next week though. Unless I need to use it tonight to fill in or something. We're continuing on. And gentlemen, you're back with us, and that's Michael Norton and Christopher Sampson, along for the ride tonight. Thank you for being able to make it. And we were going to go ahead and present that question. Go ahead and bring the question up that came from the chat room there, Chris.
Yeah, lady, one of our people in the chat room, Doris, she had a question, which, let me see. I want to make sure I get this right. So, but basically it was about if family members, all female in the family, I think she said firstborn, and they all experience recurring anger and various negative emotions and have different things going on, is that sign of a generational curse if these firstborn females in the same family experience this and no one else does?
Well, Chris, go ahead and you can add to that with your comments initially. I thought you were for a minute there that you have any 2 cents to start with on that?
I was just going to say, from what I understand so far, I would say perhaps there would probably have to be more. Of course, my counselor mind is I'd want more information before I would jump in, and kind of say yes or no. Because there would have to probably be a lot of, what's the family history like, what are the, what's genetics, blah, 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 all of that stuff. But then on the other side, there's always that possibility. That's my hunch.
Mike?
I kind of agree with Chris here from the counseling side. I get inundated with generational curse request help. And a lot of times it's just, you can't just say it's a generational curse. You need more information. I'm going to agree with Chris. You got to lay on the side too of what's happening in the family. Is it sort of like the basis of a non-spiritual dysfunctional family curse, where there's like diseased attitudes that are bred to these women and carried out through the generations that just they behave and act like this? There's so many factors here. You just can't leap on and say it's a curse. You can pray over them. I mean, that's a start. Do a curse breaking. And maybe 1 or 2 times and nothing breaks. And like I start looking elsewhere and looking at what's the behavioral issues and how they get introduced in the family. There could just be other things going on. Anymore, I mean, from the spiritual warfare side, I'm always looking at the curses and demons last. They're the last thing on the list I have to arrive at. There could be other things going on. And it takes a while, too, to deal with habits and diseased attitudes that go through families. That takes time to unroot and get rid of. And that's not a demonic thing. That's something that this poor upbringing, dysfunctional families carry through generations.
Yeah, this one, there's a little theology that kind of mixes in there and confuses sometimes. And that's what happens when the mother is, doing something. A father could be an alcoholic or womanizer, and those are unconfessed sins that are curses. And they come down the line, and then the children are baptized, which removes the original sin from all the generations. And then the person basically thinks that, hey, why would you need to deal with, family curses and so forth? Well, because your sins have been forgiven. You're not going to, go to hell for it. But they haven't removed the effects, and sometimes it hasn't been atoned for. You haven't denied it. Sometimes you got to deny it because your parents didn't. It's kind of a test. Deny alcohol. I mean, even verbally would help to some degree. When you make a declaration, it's like when you say the Apostles' Creed. After you do a renunciation of occult practices prayers, for example, that say what you believe after you renounce what you shouldn't or don't believe. When you're getting out of Satanism, witchcraft, it's kind of a simple statement there, but that's one of the progresses that one of the things that are necessary for that progress. So something lingers, something survives and goes down the line that the child, even when they're baptized, can have a spirit that attaches because their mother was a witch. And they're going to have to deal with that at some point in their life. And it's not, the Holy Spirit. And so breaking curses, prayers, and all those stones won't get rid of that kind of thing there. That's a little different because occult magic and so forth makes it a different play field when you give legal right to that sort of thing. But when it's just giving in the sins, I really think that, along the lines there's evidence that the alcoholism and so forth, you're more vulnerable to it. And you're going to have to reject what your parents didn't because they passed it on to you. They made your generation that came from your mother and father, your sisters and brothers, perhaps more vulnerable to alcoholism or drug abuse or whatever they're, they used to call them demons or monkeys on your back, are dealing with. I hope I'm going in the right direction, Chris, on this thing. And it can happen with curses, too, as far as bad luck. I was talking to somebody today, and I didn't get that it was a generational curse, as in it was there since she was a kid, because you can't recognize that stuff. You don't know what your parents are going through, hardships. Well, you might remember some things, but when they have it that strong, and then you move into a house that has issues like it could have been the site of satanic worship or some sort of black magic or something, that the two of them add together, and then suddenly you're really going to notice those we'll just say curses that have kind of lingered and weren't really much of a part to affect you until they add and they multiply with other spirits moving into the wrong house. And they're probably ones that make you like that place. And Father Chad Rippinger, the exorcist, who's in Boulder, Colorado, I think now, diocese over there, he made this case. I think it was him who says that, it's like the wife will just love the place, and it's something she just can't stop thinking about that place, and it's got to have it. For some reason, they're able to get to and you'll notice this in all the movies, too, that the women will say, how much they just loved it, and they were so drawn to it, and they talk like it was a spiritual experience, and it turns out to be one of the most haunted places you'd ever want to move into. I think those come also that they might have a vulnerability because of generational curses. So it's a pretty big, long and lengthy area, and you want to do, breaking curses, prayers, and so forth to try to detach yourself from the habits and the, we'll say, the pitfalls, the curse effects, which is hardships and misfortunes, which you might just have your whole entire life, and you're like, my father was like that too. It's like, if you invested in the stock market, that's the stock market, that's the stock that would plunge, that kind of thing. And it wasn't that he made it plunge. It means that he picked the one that was going to plunge. Like the demons know when stocks are going to plunge before your broker does. They can see this stuff happening. It's not that hard to see, and they're not predicting it in a sense that they can see the future. That's an illusion that the demons try to tell you or pass off onto people when they're oppressing you and try to make like they're more controlling, pretend to be. I think that kind of sums that up, I guess, Chris. I just want to make sure I touched on the right things. Did they want a solution? Elaborate on that?
Well, it just ended, the whole question just ended. Did it sound like the possibility of a generational curse?
Yeah,
so I think
we all
it
agree,
sounds like we all kind of touched on that.
Yeah. Yes, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that,
It's kind of like Ken touched on, too. Just because you looked at the curse, so we look at two, doesn't mean the habits go away. And that's a big mistake a lot of deliverance ministers make. Like, they're free from it. But yeah, those habits have been in the family for a while. And they have to be removed, which are the sins, the iniquities.
And it seems like, it's like our ministry is being referred to as like an evangelical ministry. It's not that like, begone, demons! Begone, demons! No, that everything that we do turns that we're actually directing them back to God. And even when people don't want to recognize that, if you're mainstream paranormal investigator and you consider yourself in helping people, on some other sort, and you're using religion and to solve the problem in one way or another, you're still doing it regardless if you recognize it or not. You're just not finishing it up. And guess what? A lot of people in the church aren't either. They get that cowboy right off in the sunset kind of syndrome going on. They don't do what's called pastoral care. Father Thomas coined the phrase from over in your neck of the woods, Mike. Pastoral care is when it gets passed to someone who's a spiritual director to some degree. He's going to be the one who takes over after the initial problem has been removed temporarily, because if they don't make those treks to follow this new path of spirituality, just like the diabetic who's been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and they said you have to eat this way and that way, and if you don't, you're going to end up, your toes are going to rot off, and there's horrible stuff that happens with diabetes. You're going to take insulin, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not that familiar with diabetes. I don't have it, but there's a horror stories of new people who had it. You got to change your spiritual diet, and someone needs to be there to help you to continue to battle by yourself. And I think the ball is being dropped by everybody on that one, pretty much out there. And we had to become specialists, Mike. And, even you counseling, Christopher, is, taking a ball, and then it's an ongoing thing. If you could solve it in one problem, like you gave them a drug and it got them off of the, whatever drug they're addicted to or anything like that, they still have a spiritual void that caused them to go to drugs to begin with, didn't they?
Yeah. That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's the complexity of the human mind and the psychology of it. We can't never ignore it, but don't rely on DSM-5. Those guys don't know what's going on. They change terminologies and they start changing the tree of diagnostics and the titles. And the only thing it's good for is if you've gone to college for it and so forth, it's good for communicating to other psychologists and psychiatrists. And fortunately, in this business, you won't have to do that much unless you're referring a case, and you can say, I'm seeing underlying, dissociative, schizophrenic characteristics, and I think I'd like you to take a look at that. But keep in mind, there might be a spiritual element there, but I'm not getting it. But you can't go to every psychologist and do that, or every therapist or whatever, because you get atheists. Psychology and couch therapy, it was really born of atheists who had no idea and understanding, and they probably was just a stubborn refusal, like with us and the atheists, like in that movie God Isn't Dead. You'll find that they're just holding back things with bitterness. My brother died, God must be mean, that kind of stuff. So we have like some ideologues, like communism and stuff, that basically just, atheists and don't. Dog? All right, I got the point. She's like, move on, Dog says. Move on! Move on to the next topic. That one came up today. Anything last minute on this? But when we go over these things, I want to put them in the archives so that people know that we went over them in detail rather than touch on it briefly. Everybody touches on stuff briefly, and they're vague. And I just got tired of, hearing vague when I want to learn anything. Like simple things that, like how to set up my WordPress page. I got to go watch a YouTube video and listen to the guy tell me to like his page and all that stuff, and then finally, for 2 minutes, they tell me how to do it, and I'm like, wait a minute, I can't find this interface. Is this for the old version? Did they change the interface? I mean, vague is just what. Sorry to complain. Padre Pio says, be at peace. He meant don't complain. But when you complain, you actually tell demons what bothers you, too. Because it is a psychological, spiritual warfare, and this, temptation, vexation, oppression, subjugation, obsession. It's all about the human mind getting us to surrender with the free will, or to try to find a weak area for the rabbit to crawl under the fence or breach through it because it's paper thin. A lot of fragile psyches too, huh? So we still got some time to go for the show. I appreciate everybody watching, especially since we took a week break. Yeah, literally a week break. Yeah, and sometimes we get to the end of the week and we've been sick or caught up with stuff. We don't have material that's ready and on deck. Luckily, we know the topics well enough we can ad-lib like tonight. But we did have some new news items, new news items. It's not a tongue twister exactly that we can throw in there. But one of the ones we're a little short on, we'll go to disposal on unholy items, because we mentioned that when we're talking about haunted objects or something, using a mainstream term there. And because disposal of unholy items have come up before, recommended books, we're a bit incomplete on that, and we're probably going to need to push that in more depth for another show, because it needs it. But we'll briefly mention a couple of books off the top of my head. I just don't want to forget anybody. And then I got some ones, probably ones that are from friends of mine first, that I'll mention. Not that I knew Gable Amorth, but I recommend all 5 of his books to the late Father Amorth. Disposal of unholy items came up again. A person found in their basement that their mother, who dabbles in witchcraft, to say the least, I think she more than dabbles, she brings stuff over to their house. Oh, here's a box of stuff. You want to go ahead and put it in the basement, or something. And then I asked last time we talked several months ago, I was like, can you think of anything she brought over? Because I kind of pinpointed it must have had something to do with that. Did she bring anything over? Did you acquire anything? Did an aunt die and leave you anything? An uncle? Has someone stayed at your house who was kind of off, And I tried to come up with that. Why is your house haunted, when it wasn't before? And, well, guess what we found out? This morning they found a box in the basement going through stuff. Had a box, just all this kind of New Age stuff in there, and candles and tarot cards and, a bunch of things like that. And I said, yeah, it's very significant, They were all used, too. It wasn't like they're brand new in the package and going to be sold on eBay. And that's significant. So disposal of unholy items was the beginning of the topic. And now, unfortunately, for some people, it's a really big thing. Like this on the haunting episode where Lee and his wife, there was something not mentioned in there, is that this gal Lita, who was that was the name and person portrayed, who is kind of the New Age gal, kept offsetting the progress that we made with this person because she wanted to write herself back into the story, probably so she could call somebody and get on the news or something. Because it was a more horrific case of, infestation and oppression. And she, used, who knows what it was, Solomon's magic. Of course, I wasn't there. It was before we showed up. To bind a demon to a dresser mirror.
Oh, yeah. God.
Like she was doing it, like sending it back, like, what's his name?
Right.
The Keanu Reeves thing where he's
Constantine, right?
Like Constantine style,
Shooting him off the cross gun.
So it was, and guess what? That room, of course, was the most active. So we had to get it out of there, and I spray paint over it and dispose of it. Instead of trying to purposely burn it, destroy it, let it be bound there and go get rid of it somewhere. And, bind it, in the name of Jesus and whatever, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not going to give instructions for priests on this show because people will do what a priest should do, who does have more authority, divine authority than, for example, us. We just do stuff when we had to, and had to too many times, unfortunately. But disposal of unholy items, like we did with the Ouija board, too, when someone found one in a place and it was causing a haunting just in that one particular room, you tell them to spray, excuse me, we had them spray over it with paint, too. And part of it's to deface it to, without destroying it, to remove any kind of value or reuse. And spray paint's not going to wear off like acrylics paints. And you don't have to keep touching it. You can hold it from a distance. And it also covers it up. You can say it could be from a Nightgaller episode where there was this painting, and they scraped it off and they found out it was a portal. And was that one with Zsa Gabor, I think, or Ava Gabor? And they painted back over this portal. But there's been other stories like, Tales from the Crypt or something like. I'm bringing them up because it's kind of a mainstream thought or notion. If you can cover up the artwork now, and painting over a pentagram that's found under a rug in a house you just bought, that's I don't know. I'd probably grind it out and everything, and then revarnish the floor. And before you do your binding prayer, anyway, you do a binding prayer and other things to keep you from being affected by crossing it, because it's booby trapped. How many times, how many times have you heard or experienced? Well, not personally, but people that you've worked with there, Mike. When people uncover a satanic site and you walk over to satanic seal, there's a booby trap. You might feel a stab in your gut. Yeah, that's just the nature of Satanism. That's why it's laughable. Chelsea Clinton telling Church of Satan, I shouldn't say Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, yeah.
Yeah, Happy New Year. It's like the people losing their minds. They're forgetting the nature of Satanism. Even it's like we work with that stuff all the time. You're over there in the Bohemian Grove neighborhood, over there. Oh my gosh. And I go back in 87, 86. I ran into my first major network case, that it was widespread. So I must have ran into the Brotherhood of Satan, the one that's worldwide, that so many people call us conspiracy kooks and nuts acting like, oh, Satan's just some local dabblers, but no, it's huge. And they got lots of money, and they network drug trafficking and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have anybody to contact for additional advice, so I wrote the Warrens. So we're going to get into some stuff about them at some point in the future that's actually out there and everybody's ignoring. But I appreciate them trying to help in the past, but there's too much of a mixed bag, and everybody likes the paranormal celebrity thing, but just pray for Lorraine and Ed. Lorraine's still alive. Pray for Ed. I suppose they introduced some great concepts, but some other bad things went with it. And we tried to avoid all that stuff. Even writing my book, The Catholic Demonologist Handbook, it was to counter some of the information that was inaccurate in Gerald Brittle's book, The Demonologist. That was comes from the school of parapsychology, which really is atheism again. It's this guy named Lloyd Auerbach. I used to call Lord Auerbach. I'm Lord Auerbach, I have his old book from the 80s, and I remember reading it through there, and everything was parapsychology in there to the sense that it was explaining everything with science, even near-death experiences or the possibility of the human having a spirit that exists in the afterlife. It was just ridiculous. But luckily, those people kind of died out. The bad thing is they've been replaced by super spiritual spiritualists. The Fox Sisters Revisited, that kind of thing. So, any recommended books that you could start with? Let's start with Chris, because you some of the Lives of Saints are going to be applicable, I think, on this. What do you think, Chris? And then go to you, Mike, after that.
Now, are we looking just for books specifically about sacramentals, or just books about saints and spiritual warfare?
Probably just any probably recommended books, sounds like.
Any books?
Yeah.
I think we just lost them.
I think we do too, so it's you and I, Chris, here we go.
Okay, well, I'll listen and then he'll come back on.
Yeah. Go ahead. It's
oh my goodness, he would ask me this now. Because all the ones that I have, I keep at work in case I need to refer to them. I'm working with a client. And in my old age, my brain can't remember them. Oh my gosh. Isn't that something? This special one, I need my books here with me. And my wife's always telling me I have too many books.
That's right.
I don't know if you're a big reader, but around here we always, I kind of joke, we keep the house for the books,
Right.
or else we wouldn't have anywhere to put them.
I know for me, for spiritual warfare, I really don't buy much spiritual warfare books anymore, because the level of warfare I'm dealing with the occult, it really doesn't matter about spiritual warfare books. I'm more concerned with my how I am centered with Jesus Christ. So a lot of my reading is primarily done just for like books like with Father Thomas Dubay, The Fire Within, looking at how St. Thomas, St. John of the Cross and St. Teresa of Avila developed their prayer life. That's where I'm just focused right now. I'm ready to just throw out a lot of my spiritual warfare books because they weren't very helpful. To me, it's like I have to be hearing God during the deepest, darkest warfare.
Yeah.
And you have to prepare for that before you walk into it. And that's just where I am, It's just things happen in my everyday life, tribulations, and those are tests for me to get it together and get fixed what I need to have when I have to go into warfare.
Yeah,
right, and if you know of a specific saint that did, that did have, encounters with the enemy and had, had struggles. I think of Saint Therese, who was, had her own encounters with the enemy throughout her life, but yet allowed God to use those moments as a tool of grace in her life and to keep leading her on the way. That's why I kind of agree with you, Michael. I think, if you find a good biography about a holy man or woman, I mean, there you've got it,
Yeah,
You model yourself after that person who were Christ-like and imitate Christ. That's what it boils down to during warfare when there's a clash,
Mm-hmm.
How is it you inside that can deal with this, and while you're under attack, you're helping somebody else and pray for them? That's what warfare boils down to.
Right.
Yeah, and there's so many of them too. Lives of Saints and so forth.
Right.
I've been getting some apologetics books lately because of some topical discussions on Facebook. I don't want to be ready, not to defend the faith even so much, but to ready to promote it.
Right.
And I was compiling a basic list, just kind of like in scratch pad style, not like serious, like I'm going to write a book or anything, because I have no idea what we're going to do next for that. And that was, who are the likely candidates for conversion of faith? And I really didn't come up with like that. I run into Buddhists, and I run into Muslims, or what's the other one, Hindu.
Mm-hmm.
But we will get Satanists, and we'll get people that are dabbling in forms of witchcraft, New Age, not even Jews that much even, or people who have fallen away, Christians. And it's like that's the thing that I need to bone up on it. But see, I was thinking that me and my wife like to use like Paul in Antioch or Patrick in Ireland, because they weren't there to talk to, Patrick converting to, Christian later on, Catholic. He went there to not preach to the choir. He went to convert pagans, that Druids and so forth, to Christianity, and he found ways, just like Paul did, to speak of common ground, to try to get them to associate. Like the way we do in the show, we talk. Some people may call layman's terms, to get people to find this common ground associative, a word and terminology that helps them to understand it, like Jesus did with parables. And it's it's a divinely inspired thing, of course, but it's not something. If you see, Patrick knew about the Druids, he knew about that, so he knew how to get in there. But what if he didn't? He wouldn't get very far to some degree with some of them, because they would bring up stuff, and you wouldn't have a counter.
It'd be interesting to see a little more about what Paul did in that area, because he's going up against the occult and the witchcraft, so he had to have power encounters too. It probably goes on beyond the book of Acts what he did. They probably threw his mojo at him, and he had to demonstrate God was greater.
Yeah, and that's what it takes sometimes.
Yeah.
I see that more and more going on than I had. I'll just say in the last 5 years, since the last 5-10 years. You go 10 years ago, it's very different now. The way the cases are more revolving around people. It's like every once in a while I get a house, it's like, oh, a mystery finally. It's like the one with the objects found in the house. I got another call today after getting that one where the objects was discovered. Remember how we said person, place, or thing? It's like you're trying to figure out, why is the house. I narrowed it down to the house. They move into the place. Everybody's affected equally, and they're good practicing Catholics, for example. And it's like now it's in the stage of discernment. Figure out what do you do with this property when it's been exorcised by a priest and everything. Well, in the house anyway, and there's got to be an object in there or something, and it's going to be a difficult one. But this other one, like I said, it took I think 3 months maybe. I think I talked to them in November, and then they just found a box in their basement, and some of them are going to require that, and you got to pray for that stuff to be uncovered. It's not like losing your car keys and praying to St. Anthony to help me find my car keys, can get to work, It's a mystery to solve for Scooby-Doo, And that's why some of us, we were interested in that aspect. But then again, it came from a background with strong Catholic beliefs. I was trying to look up some family members, and I found out one of my mentors, who was from St. Louis, and his name was Monsignor Charles Forrest. It's my grandpa's sister's son. She had 3 sons become priests, One of them became a bishop, married my mother and father in St. Louis, and became diocese bishop in our diocese before, when I was, not living in this diocese, for example, and then at some point the Kansas City diocese. And the other one, of course, was Father Bill, and he was the other brother. I think he was the youngest. Monsignor died this summer, and I didn't even know it. It's, my mother passed away, and it's like, I wish I would have known that. It's like, I don't know. I mean, before that. But Father Bill baptized our oldest son here, and that was nice. And he passed away before even Monsignor Charles Forrest did. But anyway, I don't want to get distracted here. You know what I realized, gentlemen? I guess I'll get back to the books again here. We missed a thing that I think is important. Since we're not going to be touching on the Sacramentals again, I have in here that the divinely inspired, I totally skipped over that. I don't know how it happened. And I'm bringing this up because one of the benefits of divinely inspired things is it was divinely inspired. In other words, it came from heaven, like the rosary, the brown scapular, the green scapular. I believe the Holy Face medal, which represents the veil of Veronica, but they're not. But then you got the Saint Benedict medal, and you have the Blessed Mother medal, divinely inspired. And the Blessed Mother medal is very clear, so it's just when you get like a saint. Like the holy, the Sacred Heart. I think it was Saint Margaret Mary and Saint Louis de Montfort for the Blessed Mother, and restated, and from other divinely inspired experiences by the past, forefathers of the church, for example. But the St. Michael medal, for example, people say I wear the St. Michael medal, and I said that it's not divinely inspired. It honors and venerates St. Michael the Archangel in his triumph over Satan, but it wasn't divinely inspired in the sense that it was received through a revelation, a public revelation, like in a way even the Chapel of Divine Mercy came to us when it was, in need, and that's for sure. Or any of these others that were carried down and became part of a church hand-me-down tradition and so forth. That's important. You can't just create your own, and because it can become a superstition too easy, a good luck charm or whatever. But it's okay to honor and venerate, but don't expect these other ones have a special thing with them because they were divinely inspired. They were like a gift to us from heaven. Instead of just honor and venerating, some special promises came with it, like with the green scapular and so forth, or even like with prayers, like the seven sorrows you'll find 15 promises for the rosary, that are benefits, and those won't be attached to ones that are just honor and venerating medals that someone thought, hey, I'll make a medal that, honor and venerates St. Michael. But I thought I'd throw that in there. Anything to add before we get back to our other topic from Christopher? That's fine. And it's always good to fill the holes that I might have left that I won't think till after the show. It's like, no, I should have said that. I forgot to reiterate that. Anything to add, gentlemen, before we move on to that? Back to where we were.
Nope, not that time.
No, I think you got it.
Okay, I just wanted to be thorough on that because even the supplemental was. So in a recommended books, yes, the Lives of Saints, and that's what all I had when I was around the house, and parapsychology books in the library. That's the first time I read about the old hag phenomenon because they're not in the Lives of Saints so simple. And I started stringing things together because there was a book that called, what was it? I forgot what it was called. It was blue. I can even see it in my head, because I remember it very clearly. I got it from the library when I was young, and I was only 18. And I read about the old hag and the UFO abduction phenomenon, and they cross-associated those things because, in a sense, they took it from a science standpoint. And the good thing about that is science can get like a diagnostic, like when I fix electronics. You add up all your logic that you have on it instead of throwing folklore. Like New Age people, they run too much with folklore and superstition, and everything has to do with that. And when you get somebody trying to logically cross-associate, it's like, as with the UFO phenomenon, the person reports that they were paralyzed in bed, but instead of an old hag showing up on top, it's a UFO alien at their bedside. That's the first time my parents had, talked about that stuff from these Marian apparitions that were saying the UFO aliens were demonic. But so I already had that idea in my head, but that's the first time I read in a third-party book that cross-association stuff, and that was groundbreaking. Some of those books. But like I said, we can do a whole show on books, and I think we'll save that. The ones I'm reading right now, it's kind of like Mike. Me and my wife, we keep getting those books besides the apologetics kind of books. Whatever along those type of, because even when I got the last book by Gabriel Amorth, and I don't remember of it, I just realized it's like, okay, I got it kind of as a fanboy, I guess, in a way.
Right. Yeah. Me
but
too.
I didn't really read it and find something that I could find useful, and I always hope to do it. And I listen to Father Chad. It's a lot easier to listen than it is to read.
Right.
Father Chad throws his theology and his those Summa theological things in there, which is always great, and some of his patrons and who give great sermons specific about things. So we watch videos more than we read books a lot of times. Someone would put a big heads up to our friend Father Mike Driscoll, who was just on EWTN, and we didn't get to see it. We tried to get it. We don't have satellites, so we thought we think we found it on Roku, but I'm not sure if it's going to be, that segment's going to be on there. He was talking about his book and about the topics and spiritual warfare, and I'm sorry we missed it, but you can get his book on Amazon. And I tried to copy and paste it before the show, and then I got saved somewhere. Now I couldn't find it, and it was too late. Ask Chris,
Yeah.
But when we mentioned the books, I want to put that in there because I thought we had some other people on, and I got another book on supposedly. We're still trying to master the idea that I don't want to rely on psychologists. They've been a mess. Psychotherapists, and no offense, Chris, for trying to determine psychological versus demonic. So we've gotten to the point now that we don't need them unless they need to go to them for sleeping pills because they're not getting sleep at night and they need to medicate, really, because they're so far in. The sleep will help them catch up and be able to do the rest of the battle. Those type of things. But Father Mike's book is really good. We really appreciate that he took the time to write it, and it's unique that he goes over a lot of these things, even talking about schizophrenia and so forth. And even though the book isn't saying how to tell mental from spiritual, he has a lot of stuff in there like that I didn't even find from someone who said they had a master's degree, and we had him on our show. It was a lady. I'm not going to say who it was, out of respect, because he's, doing what we're doing, even though he's a little newer. He didn't have anything to provide. It was all the stuff that me and my wife already knew. We don't even have a master's in psychology or whatever, but we got a background on it. In other words, I got shelves and shelves of all the psychology books, abnormal psychology, so several years, analysis, everything that might be useful, DSM 2, 3, 4, and 5. But like I said, it's just like when in the old days we were learning parapsychology, and it's absolutely useless. Even wasting your time going in there with meters trying to detect stuff. I can solve things on the phone. I'll call the priest for you. We can get to that far. Right there on the phone. It's like, save your money. Save your gas, I'm just saying, that's how it is. We're geeks on this stuff. Me and the wife and you guys. Electronics. I don't claim to be, good at everything or whatever. And God makes us good, and I pray, Lord, help me find a solution for this. Tonight, an interesting thing is we've had some resets during the show, and I think the hard drive that was in our master computer here that puts the stream up was bad from the start. I think it has a bad sector, and now I think we've isolated and solved the problem. Nice. The only way you can try some is to change it. So, wow, it's just really close to the end of the show. Any more questions, gentlemen? Do you see that's lingering in the chat room? Anything at all?
The only thing I remember, Ken, is what we were talking about, that movie coming out about Mr. Slender Man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, Chris, you're saying that there's a movie based on Slender Man. Is this based on what the girls experience or based on the character itself?
It's a character based.
Right, it's which the trailer just came out. It's coming out sometime this spring, and the trailer left me. I mean, I'm not quite sure if there's a coherent plot, but once again, it has to do with some young girls, and apparently bloodshed and kids dying, and there's the Slender Man that keeps popping up.
Yeah. We talked about Slender Man on the radio show, and since we got the visual presentation formats, we can take that to a higher level with bullet points and videos, images, and so forth, which I think is important. If this thing resurrects a curiosity about that stuff, you remember the Charlie game? The media helped to promote that. And it kind of disappeared, didn't it? Kind of like that paper football thing they do, It's kind of and when you're bored in class, you get out the paper football, you fold it into a triangle like a flag, and then some kid, behind there, he holds his arms like he's a goalpost, and then you flick it with your finger when the teacher's not looking, and then try to keep yourself contained if you get a goal, or what do they call that in football? When you kick the ball, over the goalpost. Field goal. Okay. Yeah, that's goal. That's soccer. Whatever. I'm a hockey and baseball guy. When I do follow sports, But yeah, we're happily doing the ministry and our daily work and the family stuff. I don't really. I'd like to be able to get the guitar out and stuff and maybe write some songs or whatever, but we're not really getting to that. But that's okay because we love what we're doing still, and that's what's really important. Let's see, did I have that one question here? Let me see what that was. It's kind of like somebody put something in there, some metaphysics. You ever know people will say it's New Age and some people will say it's science. Some of these things apply. And what I mean by that is you have to be careful because when you start to label stuff that, New Age people do, and you might start, you ended up in the Keys of Solomon just because something in the Keys of Solomon actually answered a question you had. Don't go read the Lesser Keys of Solomon just because of that. You're reading the Doctrine of Demons, that are about conjuring, and they only teach you what that will bring you down, and give you an illusion that you're actually in control. So don't be a fool on this kind of stuff. Sometimes we learn some things, from other pagan religions. They got some things right. That's why it worked. It's not because the demons totally pulled the wool over their eyes, but the cosmic law or the universe works that way by default anyway. And all they got to do is spin it to get them to spin towards, demonic or not believing or anything away from Christ, away from God. And that's one of the things that people need to watch out for is that the great deception. I mean, demons do it on a masquerade level when they pretend to be a little girl misses her mommy, to the parent. But to the teenage girl, it's some rebel boy, erect on his motorcycle. They always have the right costume for whatever thing. But, we always have to be aware and ready on the battlefront and this kind of thing because the great deception continues. As my wife would say, the battle's already been won, and we're just help and serve our audience. We're here to serve you and to help you in the name of Jesus, and to get the education, the awareness out there. There's so many people out there who are afflicted by these things. We're glad to be there. Any last thoughts that you would like to put onto the deck there, gentlemen?
Off the top of my head, no.
Nope, I'm good.
Yeah. Don't forget, gentlemen, next week, Sister Farah will be back, and she'll be right in there on that screen right there. Right there. You see that? See that right over there? See where that black space is right there? That's where her face will be tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. No, that'll be next Thursday. Same time, same bat channel. And Deb will be back with us as well. And we got some things that we had on deck that held over. We'll just bring them into the next week's show. The book thing, we'll do a special on that. None of us got to really bring up. It's like, what books did you start off with, Mike and Chris, for example, when you started having an interest in these things that you thought were the most helpful? I mean, there's several book questions that we can ask. What specific books in the lives of saints, were the first ones that you read? And maybe we can, flash the cover of it. That help to, give the audio-visual presentation, which we're taking advantage of fully on our little show here. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching, listening, however you were in the chat room. I'm sorry I can't be in there because I can't do everything. But I'm glad that everybody showed up, and I appreciate it. And I'm glad that I had a voice to, hanging in there. And, well, you know what? God bless everybody. Happy New Year. And we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.